Happy Motivational Monday, everyone. My name is Kira. I am your host for this beautiful series that we are doing at least until the end of the year. After that, we get to decide what we want to do and how we want to show up. However, for the meantime, you have me every Monday morning at 8:30 Pacific time, 11:30 Eastern time to dive into our Motivational Mondays. So the idea of Motivational Monday is to create a space where we can have meaningful conversation that's going to motivate you to make positive change in your life. And the intention is not for it to be this conversation that just happens for 15 minutes and then you move on with your life and we forget about it. The intention is for us to impart wisdom on you. And by us, I mean me. I've been pondering, I've been thinking about special guests and who we can have on here. And these conversations are just going to get better and better, especially when it's not just me talking. However, for me and for us, the intention is to have this be something that ripples throughout your week, where you're noticing, like last week we did the habit loop, where you're noticing, maybe I am in a space of undoing a lot of habits, or maybe I haven't had awareness of a lot of these habits, and now I do. The first step to change is always awareness. And one of the things that Brene Brown says is if you can't name it, you shame it. And we talked about this on our financial well-being series last week during our Connect event, which is a separate event from Motivational Monday. Drop 222 in the chat if you were at the Connect event last week as well. The thing about if you can't name it, you shame it goes for if you have all of these habits, but you don't realize that they're habits and you're personalizing them and you're making them a part of your personality and you're identifying with them so deeply, then you start to shame it. However, when you realize that it's a habit, for me, this is how my journey went. Once I realized that all of these things that I didn't like about myself were simply habits, I got to reframe my perspective to, oh, this isn't me. Like, this is not me as a core, my bad habits. They're just habits that I have that I can change and bring into better habits. So it allowed me to have a better relationship with myself, and it allowed for an easier transition and an easier period of growth because instead of having shame about the ways that I was showing up in my life, I got to be a little bit more inspired and I got to learn how to make positive change. So that's just my example with the habit loop and how it can change your life and ripple out beyond just this 15-minute conversation. However, I I believe that starting with habits has been really important. And I feel like it's the way that we involve ourselves in healthy change, maybe for the first time ever. Drop 333 in the chat if you've shamed yourself in your life for the habits that you've had or the way that you show up or I mean, there's so many ways that we shame ourselves. The chat is going wild. It's crazy because when we start asking these harder questions about the things that we don't like about ourselves, I usually get more response than the things that we do like about ourselves. And before we dive into some healthy habits with finances, which is what this call is about today, I put it in the chat and also say it to yourself. I love myself. I'm gonna put it in the chat too. I love myself. I know it can be cliche. I know it can. Oh, Sheila, you're so sweet. It can be really cliche. However, it's cliche for a reason. If we do not have self-love and if we do not tell ourselves that we love ourselves on a daily basis, then all of the changes that we're trying to make come from a place of dislike. And that doesn't work. Positive change, healthy change, becoming the people that we know that we can be does not come from that place. So, my challenge to you is to tell yourself that you love yourself every day. Before right here and right now, before you just dropped in the chat, before you just said it to yourself, I love myself. Hopefully you said it to yourself, right? Before this, and let me know in the chat, when was the last time you told yourself that you loved yourself? Did you tell yourself that you loved yourself this week? This month? This year? This decade? This lifetime? Yeah. I don't think I've ever told myself that. That's real. I'm getting flown out to California in November, and this is just a side tangent, to be in a docu-series. And I've been working with this multi-generational behavioral chiropractor. And one of the things is that we've been walking through the world trying to get love from people who don't even love themselves. And some of you might be those people. But how can you love someone else if you don't love yourself? And how can someone love you if they don't love themselves? Right? So, all of this, everything that you're going to hear from me, I am a very intellectual person. I have a lot of information. I've got a lot of insight. I've got a lot of wisdom. And as much as I love information and much as I love patterns and as much as I love habit loops, the greatest thing that has been my experience is learning relationships with ourselves and learning relationships with others, but it will always start with ourselves. So you'll always hear me giving you affirmations. You'll always, yeah, like we're having a financial conversation in just a moment, but you're always going to hear me giving you affirmations and you're always going to hear me giving you reminders of you and what you need and who you are. So, that's just our little side tangent. Now we're going to dive into some healthy financial habits. So, for those of you who were on Connect last week, we have a financial series happening until the end of the year. We're doing a lot of things until the end of the year right now. I love series. I love building on things. I love starting broad and getting really deep. I love taking you on a journey. That all matters a lot to me. So, that's the reason why we're doing this financial well-being series because getting a hold of your finances does not happen overnight. There's absolutely no way. And if you think it's going to happen overnight, you're probably going to self-sabotage yourself. How do I know that? Because I've done it myself so many times. So, the financial well-being series, we have 6 calls. Well, 5 calls remaining, but we have 6 calls over October, November, and December specifically for our financial well-being series. And it is a beautiful space where we have our Connect event, which is a 1 hour monthly meeting where we give you the information about your financial well-being. This past Wednesday was our Connect event, and it was just mapping out the basic steps. We literally had you sit down and write out what your life is going to look like on December 31st and to be realistic about it. Because the thing with your finances and the thing with any change that we're trying to make is a lot of us default to fantasy, where we're like, oh my gosh, I can do all of this in 7.5 seconds, when really it may take like 17 months. Who knows? So if you're in fantasy, you are automatically setting yourself up for failure. If you're in reality, you're automatically setting yourself up for success. So with that, looking at our finances is really important. And Ben had us look at where we were going to be on December 31st of this year with our finances. So knowing where we're going gives us something to walk towards every day, to put in the work towards every day. So we did that. If you did not watch the recording, I will drop a link in at the end of this that has access to register for all of our Motivational Mondays, all of our Connect events, and also our exclusive group sessions. So if you weren't on the live session, you can watch the recording. And if you watch the live session or the recording, you can come to our exclusive group call this Wednesday, where we actually help you go through your finances. We answer your questions, we do some workshopping, we dive in together, right? So we do that. The second Wednesday of every month is the Connect event. And the third Wednesday of every month is the group session, October, November, and December. And then beyond that, we also have Motivational Monday. So with our finances, drop in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10 where you feel like you're at in regards to your finances. And maybe your relationship with money, but really your finances as a whole. Like, are you in debt? Do you have a savings? Are you financially responsible? Are you an impulse buyer? Uh, let's see. Do you have retirement? Do you have fund money? Do you have emergency money? Cool. We're on a spectrum. I would say I'm probably a 5. I've been working on my finances for quite some time. And there are a lot of places that I still desire to be. There's a lot of layers of growth that I'm still developing into. And from where I was even earlier this year, I'm like worlds apart. I could be a 10. And so from where I was to where I am now, I'm like an 8 or a 9, maybe a 10. Because Kira a year ago could not have imagined where I am now. However, where I want to go, there's still all of this, right? So I'm like, cool. I feel like I'm halfway there. I feel like I'm starting to get it. I feel like I'm starting to put things into place. I feel like things are starting to make sense. So this perspective is coming from someone who's in the middle of the spectrum. I do not have financial freedom. I do not have like all of these investment properties and all this money coming in. I've got multiple businesses. I've got a lot of things going on. However, I'm still learning my own mindsets and my own habits around money. So the wisdom I'm going to give you comes from that place of like, how does a 5 operate, right? So some of you may be like, oh, I already have some of these habits in place. Some of you may be like, oh my God, I need some of those habits in place. And we're here to help you. So one of the things that was the biggest shift for me was I started talking to people about my finances. Drop 444 in the chat if you do not talk about money. A lot of people don't. There's so much shame around money. It's crazy. And drop 555 in the chat if you're comfortable with talking about your financial situation. Because some people really are. Some people are like, cool, yeah, I pay my credit card off every month. I never pay my minimum payment. I'm at a zero balance all the time. I'm like, oh, that's nice. So some of us don't talk about it. Some of us do talk about it. I feel like getting okay with where you're at allows you to start having more conversations about it. So one of the things that I did to get from a 0 to a 5, and I've got a few little tips and tricks, and if you all have any, drop them in the chat too, especially all you 5s and all you 7, 8s, and 9s. Drop your wisdom on us. This is a collaborative space, okay? So one thing is drop savings in the chat if you have a savings account. I'm curious. Beautiful. Okay. We got people with savings, baby. So with your savings account, I did not learn how to use my savings account properly at all. I basically just used it as a place where I could move money in and out of. Ideally, your savings account is a place where you have money that you put in that you do not touch, unless you have a very, 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 very specific plan for it. However, you're just like saving up and you're just building money, and you can use that towards your assets, and you can use that towards your investments, and you can use that towards other ways that are going to multiply your money. However, your savings account is not meant to be pulled from on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. It is the way that I would suggest thinking about your savings account is putting the money there and not acting like it exists. Don't, if you've got $20,000 in your savings account, you don't have $20,000 to spend at all. You don't get to buy the new boat. You don't get to buy the new bag because you have $20,000 in your savings account. You have $20,000 in your savings account to get you to where you want to go in the future and to support you and your overall long-term growth. It is not to be used in your day-to-day spending. It is not to be thought of in your day-to-day spending. So that's my little thing about savings accounts. All of this is going to be little droplets of information. It's just a little bit of Motivational Monday. If you want deeper conversations with me, we do have the Connect events that you can join. So with that, one of the things that really changed for me was I got a guide with LifeGuides when I first started working for LifeGuides. And I was like, I am ready to change my financial situation. And I had already been ready, but doing this alone is really hard, especially in a world where so many people don't talk about money. Or what I have found, which is crazy, is there are a lot of people who are talking about money, but they don't even do well with their money at all. And those are huge things to start to notice as well. So when I joined LifeGuides, I have a certified guide who helps me with my finances. And it is the reason why I feel so financially confident and why I feel like I can stand taller and why I feel like I can show up even deeper And I feel like once we get a handle on our money, we get a handle on our value because money has value, right? So it's not about how much money you have, but it's how you value money. And it also is a reflection of how you value yourself. So the more discipline that I have in regards to my habits, my structure, my routine, my workout, my food, my money, the more value that I feel like I have because I'm pouring into myself in meaningful ways and showing up in meaningful ways that matter to me. So having a guide has been huge. Every week she knows exactly the money that's in my bank accounts. No one knows how much money is in my bank accounts. Those aren't conversations we have in America. However, she knows exactly how much is in my bank accounts. She knows exactly where my money is going. And we sit down and we talk about it. And we have conversations about, okay, I'm taking a trip to Puerto Rico next week. That's really happening. I'm half Puerto Rican. I will be singing in ceremony and doing a lot of other wonderful things, learning how to surf. And she made me do a budget. I was like, Sonia, I'm going to Puerto Rico, help. And she was like, okay, cool. This is how much. She's like, I have a friend in Puerto Rico. I am going to call him right now and I'm going to figure out exactly how much you're going to be spending on food. I need you to find out the extracurriculars that you want to do. I want you to think about your money spending budget. And I was like, there is a local artist whose art I really want for when I move. And she's like, don't buy that. Buy it when you move. She's like, you're adding more moving expenses and you don't even have a space for it right now. And it's not in your budget. So we had to sit down and get really real. And she helped me double down on my budget and actually be able to go on trips, not frivolously. I travel a lot. I am a big, big travel bug, and I could just be frivolous and impulsive when I'm in a new place and I'm excited and there's awesome food and there's awesome art. And that's not the way to do it. And I had to really think about my long-term goals and where I wanted to go. So as I was unlearning the habit of impulse spending, drop 222 in the chat if you're an impulse spender. I had to learn how to not, like my friends would be like, "You want to go shopping?" Or I would just be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm bored. I'm just gonna go look in the store." I never look. Are you kidding me? I buy. I love things. So I had to learn how to be like, okay, I can use my time better. I'll actually read a book instead because I know my habits. I know what my brain automatically does. However, I did find two things for impulse purchasing that really helped me. One came from a guide and one came from a minimalist TikTok. So the first one was a minimalist TikTok. I don't know her TikTok name. If I think of it, I will let you know. She created this really cool PDF where when you are out shopping, say you're in Target or TJ Maxx, and you see something that you want to impulse buy, there's literally a fillable PDF that you can check things off for. And if you fall like on a certain level of that spectrum, then you don't buy the thing. Or if you fall on the other level of the spectrum, you do buy the thing. The one thing that really sat with me was, have I been thinking about making this purchase for 2 weeks or longer? Huge. That's how you know you're not impulse buying. If you have been thinking about it for 2 weeks or longer, and if it's something that you've had in your mind, and if you don't already have something that's like that. And as soon as I started implementing that, going shopping was easier. Getting all of the ads on social media became so much easier. We've got TikTok shop on TikTok. We've got Instagram ads everywhere to buy things. And it made it so much easier for me to be like, okay, I haven't been thinking about this for 2 weeks. Or if I really, really, really loved it and I hadn't been thinking about it for 2 weeks, I was like, I will come back in 2 weeks. And I do this to myself all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I love it. I want to buy it. And then I'm like, wait, if I walk out of the store and I'm still thinking about it tomorrow or the next day or the next day or the next day, then I'll think about purchasing it. But just being in the store and wanting to buy it, not necessarily good. And there are a lot of things that I've bought that I've just gotten rid of over the years because they were just impulse buys and they were giving me that dopamine hit, which we will during this Motivational Monday, we will be talking about different hormones, about how they work and how we can use them to our benefit and the ways that we can show up better. So that's a conversation that's coming for the future. So that was one thing that was really great. But the other thing that my guide helped me with, which if you guys aren't familiar, hi, this is LifeGuides. We are a peer-to-peer support program that your company purchased where you have guides that you are able to have conversations with that help you go through the things in life that you're going through, whether it's taking care of your finances, creating a well-being action plan, going through a divorce, going through a breakup, losing a family member, moving to a new area, starting to believe in yourself, having an accountability partner, whatever it is, your company has paid for you to use the service for free to be able to uplevel your life and have someone to support you. So it's not therapy. They aren't therapists. They're guides, and they're just here to guide you on this journey of life. And I have two guides, and my life is infinitely different with them. One of my guides is traveling for 2 months and is unavailable. And there are so many times I call my man and I'm like, I miss my guide. I wish I could talk to her right now. And I'm literally counting down the days. I'm like, I have my call on November 11th. I'm so excited. So I suggest getting a guide. You can go to app.lifeguides.com, register, and you can look through all the categories of ways that we are here to support you. Find a way that works for you. The guides all pop up. You can select a guide, you can schedule a call, and you can start to build a relationship with someone who is neutrally there to help you in your life. It's not a friend, it's not a family member, it's not anyone who has any invested interest in your life other than to simply help you grow in the direction that you're looking to grow through. And it's a lot more casual and a lot more easier, and it's free than therapy, right? So that's my plug for Life Guides. Register. If you haven't registered, register, okay? My guide was like, she's like, every time you go to spend money, think about it this way. Is it worth staying in the position that you are in right now that you want to get out of? Is that worth sacrificing your goals for another month? Every time you spend extra money, that is not worth sacrificing your goals, which my goal is to move to Miami. She's like, so is that dress worth spending another month in North Carolina? No. I literally will be touching the dress. It'll be on my body and I'll go put it back. And I'll be like, it's not worth it at all. And it's these mindset shifts and these pattern disrupts, because a lot of us are just operating out of habit and pattern. It's these pattern disrupts where we get to undo the patterns that we've had for a really long time, and having someone else's voice in your mind to help you is huge. And what'll happen is the voice that you have in your head that's telling you to make an impulse will change into the voice of your guide who's helping you to shift. And then once it becomes second nature in you, it'll go back to your voice on a positive note, which is really fun. So right now I hear Sonia's voice, but there's going to come a time when it's just my voice and me, and it's just embodied wisdom inside of me. And that's so nice. So, two other things that I will say that will set you up really well, and then we'll end this call is how many of you have online banking? Drop 333 in the chat if you have online banking. You have an app that you can look at on your phone, or you can log into the internet and see your bank accounts. The easiest way to develop a new habit is to put it on top of a really strong habit that you already have. Whether it's brushing your teeth or making breakfast at a certain time or taking your kids to school or when you wake up to your alarm in the morning, the easiest way to add a new habit is to add it on top of something that's already solid. So maybe pick a solid habit that you already have. Look at your accounts once a week. I want you to know what is in your accounts. First and foremost, I want you to know what money that you have. A lot of us have shame around even looking at our accounts if we're on the lower end of the spectrum, right? And then I want you to actually look at all of the transactions every week. I want you to see when Amazon Prime auto renewed and you didn't even know you signed up for it a year ago. I want you to see that you've been paying for your gym membership for 7 months and you don't even go there. I want you to see that you got double charged for your internet bill. Start looking at your accounts and knowing what's coming in and out and just making sure, because there are errors that happen. I've caught errors. I've called companies, I've called Amazon, I have seen the double charges come from Zoom or Canva or whatever. And I've called and I've been like, hey, there's a double charge, and they fix it right away. But no one would ever fix it if I didn't call. They've got trillions of charges happening every single day. I am not their concern. My money isn't their concern. Them taking my money is their concern, but what I'm doing with it and making sure that it's safe and sound and that I'm financially secure, not their concern. So check your accounts. And then the other thing that I'll say is if you're starting to build a savings account, but you have a habit of living your life paycheck to paycheck, and if you want to drop 444 in the chat and be like, yeah, actually, I do live paycheck to paycheck, the statistic, get this, 50% of people who make $100,000 or more are living paycheck to paycheck. So it's not about how much money you make, it's about the habits that you have with your money. People who make a lot of money sometimes spend more money. They have the more luxurious lifestyle, still living paycheck to paycheck, still having that stress. So, one of the things that I would suggest is set up a direct deposit from your checking to your savings account for once a week. It can be $5, it can be $10. Maybe don't start with more than that. And just have it direct deposit from your checking to your savings. So every week, something's going into your savings. It doesn't have to be big to start, it's just building that habit. So every week it gets direct deposited, it gets transferred over, and you don't even have to think about it. I've got a calendar reminder in my phone that on Wednesdays it tells me $10 getting transferred tomorrow. My accounts don't go to zero, but if for some reason they ever did, I would have a reminder the day before so that I don't overdraft. So just building systems of protection. So that $10 trick also came from my guide. So I feel like that's all. This has almost been a 30-minute long conversation. It's supposed to be 15 to 20, but I love talking to you all. So there's so much that goes on with our finances. I am not a financial advisor. I cannot give you advice about your finances. I'm getting advice. I am not giving advice. These are just little tips and tricks that have helped me change my own financial situation and gain more confidence in my financial well-being. So I'm imparting those on you as just like a little teaser and a little taster. However, I'm not your girl for financial guidance. We got guides for that. You have other people in the world for that. There are people who are so much more well certified than me. I'm your woman for a lot of other things, and you'll continue to see that over the remainder of our time together. It's been a joy and a pleasure spending this motivational Monday with you. Thank you so much for having these conversations with me and for getting open and vulnerable about where you're at. And hopefully, you use some of the things that I shared and some of the wisdom that I imparted to help you navigate your own situations and your own life. That's my greatest goal is for you to have a better life and to walk through the world differently with a little bit more confidence and a little bit more trust in yourself. And then beyond that, of course, the greatest thing that I would say is register for Life Guides and start looking at our guides and start having these conversations that matter with someone who gets to be there for you over and over and over and over. I talk to both of my guides weekly, and to have that level of support is so amazing. And I feel so much more grounded and I feel so much more supported. And I feel like I'm not walking my path alone. I'm sending you all lots of love. Have the most beautiful Monday. We will talk soon. Respond to that survey, register for Life Guides, and have a beautiful week. Bye, everyone.